Hey everybody. Oh, I just realized my show length countdown is not the right number. Sorry about that. So we will get a gong in 22 minutes that we can ignore. Welcome to special once a month early Q&A AMA. Once a month on Tuesday, I try to do an earlier version of our every Tuesday Q&A AMA so that we can get more people in more time zones. I also know it's the start of European holidays and many people have today off, so it might be quiet here. But if you have a question for me, there's no waiting. We don't have any questions here ahead of time. I'm happy to take any question you have, especially related to CX, UX, or product strategy. You can ask it in the chat, or if you have something longer or anonymous, follow the link to ask your question at deltacx.com/links. And remember, we've also got lots of great webinars coming up that are all free. A couple of workshops aren't free, but most of our upcoming programming is completely free. You can check that out at cxcc.to/events. And you can add our entire calendar to yours, or you can RSVP one event at a time and get email reminders from a new system I'm trying. And as always, thank you to all of our Patreons, or patrons, I guess it is, who are members in our Patreon. Hi, Sully. You can join Patreon for free, and it's kind of our new mailing list. You'll be updated on stuff without an algorithm getting in the middle, or you can join for as little as $1 American a month and get some neat perks and early access. And speaking of which, if you are a Patreon member, yes, I am live right now. Sali, I just said your name. That would be really weird if this were not live and I'm saying your name. Speaking of Patreon perks, if you are a mid-level or higher Patreon, you can ask your question out in the open or anonymously in our private CXCC Discord channel called Q4AMA. And I will be watching that because as a mid-level or higher Patreon, you get priority. So yes, this is live. That's interesting that people think I am broadcasting a show pretending to be live, but I am absolutely live. We're usually just 20 to 40 seconds delayed just because of the interwebs. So if you do have a question or a comment and I haven't responded to it yet, just know that there is a delay between us. I could time it today if anyone's as curious as I am. Let's open up my fancy stopwatch. Let's see. And we can see how long it takes for me to do this. Go. Well, now I have to open up the screen. It's not open. I'm not ready. Oh, yeah, I'm way past that. Okay, we have a short lag today. So if anybody has questions, I am ready to take them. That's a short lag. It's not 40 seconds. We are a little bit more in time with each other. Okay, let me just get all my things set back up. And again, if people don't have questions, that's fine. We can wind it down in a few minutes. If that, no reason to broadcast if no one has any questions, but I'm here to essentially give you some free mentoring or coaching if you don't mind your question being answered publicly. Hello, Dilip. This is Q&A AMA, so I'm here to answer your questions. I'll be back here at 3 o'clock in the afternoon Italy time. It's about 9 in the morning here in Italy, so I am still waking up, but thanks to my camera, which has a filter, it makes me look a little bit more awake than I feel. Tomorrow's webinar I'm really excited about. Sign up at cxcc.to/events if you haven't yet. It's free. And it's about our quadrant exercise. We've talked about it before on our other YouTube channel, Delta CX, but we're going to go through the new version of it in much more depth and teach people how to do an exercise that they can do with their teams. Oh, my dog is here. Maybe she would like to be on the show. And Sue. It's Olivia the dog. Maybe she can answer your questions. How's your day? Yeah, we woke up. We weren't too sure we wanted to wake up. But Olivia and I are here. She still smells terrible. She's definitely eaten something disgusting. Anyway, hi everybody. So normally I get a lot of questions. I think people are just on vacation right now, so I don't have as many questions. But if anybody has questions about especially CX, UX, product strategy, things like that, I am happy to answer them. This is live, and it's no cost to you. And we've got Olivia the dog, who's feeling a little bit huggy. Are you having a huggy morning? Okay, how about you go down? See you later. Thank you. Have you played around with object-oriented user experience? Great, thanks. Hey, good morning, Drew. Well, it's morning for me. It might be late for you. I forget where you are. Let me put that on our list of questions so it can be in the YouTube description later. So let's talk about object-oriented user experience. I was introduced to it, I think, in 2016 or 17. I had some coworkers who were excited about it. They were trying to get it into our company and processes. And when I saw it, I just didn't get it because I felt, sorry about my cursor. I just felt like I'm an information architect. I'm pretty good at information architecture. I'm not sure I need this thing that seems to be some sort of variation or derivative of information architecture. Some people seem to like it because of the way that it breaks things into nameable pieces and gives you, people who love to work from a framework will want to work from a framework. I feel like I don't need frameworks or templates or canvases. I can just do information architecture work. And so I would have to say that my opinion on it ranges from low to medium. Like, I wish that we were out there pushing information architecture. If we're going to be talking about anything, I sure wish it were information architecture. I'm not as big of a fan when people take an existing thing and keep it the same or microscopically change it and then kind of put their own name on it. Because what is object-oriented user experience? The last time I had heard object-oriented was like 1996. And I believe it was a database or development term. Again, I might be wrong, but I felt like, is this really the future of UX? To name something that I haven't heard in 20 years. So I have to admit, I'm not a fan. I'm not deeply against it, but I whenever people mention it, I say, why not just study and do information architecture? Then you'll be looking at a lot more than hierarchies and labeling. You'll be thinking more completely about all of this. So I think she has a new course out and they're selling it for like $13 American, which for some people is unreasonably expensive and for some people is a reasonable price. I haven't heard from anybody who took it yet, so I can't say, oh wow, this new course is so great, everybody should do it. Typically, I'm just suggesting that people track down good courses on information architecture, which are hard to find, but I would say look for anything Abby Covert is doing, ABBYCOVERT. I think Abby is really one of my go-to sources for good information on information architecture, and she's not doing object-oriented UX, and that's her choice, and that's fine. So I would have to say I don't think I've played around with it beyond what my coworkers were trying to drag me into 7-8 years ago now. When was 2016, 2017? 6 years ago? Wow, it feels so long ago, doesn't it? 6-7 years ago. The pandemic was like 20 years. So I would say if it helps you in some way, great. If it's a stepping stone to information architecture, great. But I'm not sure I would stop at object-oriented UX, even if it were something that I felt like people liked or wanted to use or bring into their company. If it doesn't reflect everything in information architecture, then there's still more to learn and do, because information architecture is the kind of thing where even if you know nothing about it and you've never heard the term, you're doing the work. You just might not be doing it well. You can't get away from information architecture. It's everywhere. Even these graphics are information architecture, and probably not even that great, because I'm not a great visual designer, but I like to think I'm decent in information architecture. So, there you go. It's all information architecture. And so again, if OOUX helps somebody, I can't say it's wrong for you. I would just say there's more. Like, it's the way I think of jobs to be done. I don't love jobs to be done. I don't think it's the best version of looking at users' current tasks and experiences and mapping them out and looking for opportunities to make them better. I prefer task analysis. But if your company's doing jobs to be done, that's not a disaster, or at least hypothetically not a disaster. And it could just be a stepping stone. Maybe you start with jobs to be done and then you realize, oh wow, there's something that's even better, and it's task analysis. And again, that's my opinion that it's better. Lots of people love jobs to be done. I feel like it's missing too much. I tend to like things that are a bit more thorough and complete and detailed, because you can always be more thorough, more complete, and more detailed, or you can dial that down. If a project doesn't call for extremely granular detail, you decide how much detail it has. But if you start with a framework or paradigm that is a little bit more minimalistic, where do you go from there? Okay, we have someone who I'm not sure how to pronounce. Ugur? Let's put your question on the list. How are you? I'm okay, thanks. A little sleepy. How do you do task analysis? Okay, so there's a very long answer to this that we're not going to totally give today. I'll give you the short version and a couple of resources that you can check into to learn more. First, let's talk about the resources. So over on my other YouTube channel, Delta CX, where we're not posting much stuff anymore here, this is the more active channel, there's 800 videos there. So there's still a lot to learn from the Delta CX channel, even if we're not actively putting up a lot of content there. And there's a playlist called Micro Lessons. We've got 4 videos there about task analysis. So you would want to start with the one called Task Analysis and optimization or something like that. And then we've got 3 other ones that you can watch as well. So in short, what's going on with task analysis? You start with observational research. It's not really the type of thing that you're going to do well from a survey or a focus group or guessing about users. Sometimes you can do it from interviews, but again, people don't always remember their tasks and all of the steps they did and how they did them. So it's always better when we can watch that task happen. And so once the researchers have observed that task from multiple people from our target audience, you start by making a diagram, and you can do a sticky note diagram. So these are wacky sticky notes. So we've got first, what are the user's steps? What did people do in what order? That to me already can go beyond how some people do jobs to be done. We're not just looking at what's the job to be done, we're looking at every step this person did. That's also probably going to already be more detailed than a customer journey map. Some people make very high-level customer journey maps. Like an example I keep putting in my books is the customer's journey is to go through security at the airport. So they find security, they put their stuff in the tray, and they go. That is not realistic. That's not detailed. Thanks, Mickey. I will answer you in a moment. So we've got our user steps. Now we're going to add more detail to them based on what we observed. We're going to look at tools, knowledge, workarounds, issues, concerns, and obstacles. And that's 6 new areas where we might be able to understand a problem, solve a problem, see an opportunity. So tools would be, did they take out a calculator? Are they using Excel? Workarounds might be, did they ask a coworker for help? Do they have sticky notes at their desk to remind them of what to do? Workarounds are the band-aids people put on their own task or step to try to make it better. Knowledge is, what did the task expect people to know versus what did they know? We see this a lot, for example, when we go to pay bills online, and instead of asking us something we do know, like our phone number or email, they ask us our account number. I don't know that. Now I've got to go dig up a bill. So that's an example of where a task required knowledge I didn't have. Luckily, it's knowledge I could get, but I don't have it. And issues, concerns, and obstacles are anything that might stand in the way of this step of the task being done well. Again, this is the short version. We've got a book coming out about this. It's not available yet, but Larry Marine wrote a book, and this is the test copy from Amazon. We are probably releasing it, I would say maybe even in the next week or two. It is ready for action, and that is a book I will recommend that everybody read. It's called Disruptive Research, but you can't get it yet, so don't look for it. It's not out yet. We're putting the finishing touches on it. Today, I have to make the Kindle version. So then the researchers, knowing all of this, will create a task flow diagram, which might be a flow chart, and they will take a look at where can a system take a lot of the work off the user. Where can something the system does replace a step the user was doing? Where can something the system does replace tool, knowledge, workaround, or blocker of some sort? Now we have an optimized task flow. We have a desired future state where the user's task has been simplified and improved based on the strategic ideas of the researchers doing this. Now that doesn't mean they're drawing screens and they know the exact mechanism for this or the exact execution. They're just saying the task would go better if it generally went like this with these steps and these details and parameters. So again, it's not the exact solution. There's still room for people who love to create solutions to find them. All right. And now let's put Mickey's question back up. And I almost feel like someone paid Mickey to ask this. Mickey, thank you so much for this question. I'll also get it on our list. How can I elicit the knowns and unknowns during a kickoff workshop from a workshop group which includes stakeholders from policy? I work in a complex government space. Any tools or methods you suggest? This is tomorrow's webinar. Seriously, this is tomorrow's free workshop and webinar. You must be there, Mickey. It will be later than it is right now. It will be tomorrow at 3 p.m. Italy time. Go to cxcc.to/events. It will not be a live YouTube show. We are switching out our live YouTube shows for live webinars and workshops. Right now, I'm going to try holding them in Google Meet because Zoom keeps flaming down, and I don't know why I even pretend to trust them and want to try them again. It's just a garbage fire every time. So tomorrow we're going to be talking about the exercise that I do that it's version 2, and I call it it's got a new name. I used to call it the quadrant, and now I'm calling it Discovery Phase Knowledge Quadrant, or DPKQ. And we're going to be talking tomorrow about how to plan that, how to facilitate that, how to run it, and then we're going to do a sample one with whoever is there live in the workshop. Ooh, you're in Australia. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know my shows are not super friendly for Australia time. Well, that's fine. We're going to be recording. All of our webinars and workshops will be recorded. They will first go to our patrons. So even at the $1 American dollar a month level, you will get the webinars and workshops right away. They'll be exclusively for Patreon members for 2 weeks, and then they'll go up on YouTube. So I would say if you have $1 American dollar, you can join Patreon and get that workshop hopefully tomorrow. The problem is right after the workshop I'm on a whole bunch of podcasts, but I'll do my best to try to edit it down and get it ready for Patreon so they can get it as fast as possible. So ultimately, that's exactly what this workshop is. This workshop is a way to look more at unknowns than knowns. And as I explain tomorrow, the problem is that a lot of times, even when we have things we think are knowns or facts, they might not be true. And we could end up going in the wrong direction by assuming that what someone says is true or a fact or a known or a certainty. Ends up not being so. It could be outdated information. It could be that person's opinion, and they just think they're so good at this and they know our customers and users or society so well that this has to be true. And so it's an exercise to gather more of the unknowns. People can put knowns up if they'd like, but we're going to treat them like they're potentially unknown. And then we're going to be talking about how to take the next steps, which would be the internal or external research that will answer those questions. Because we need to talk about the risk to a project or organization, or in your case, maybe the public, because it's a government space. When we move forward with a project knowing so little. The exercise will remind us how little we know, and it's a really good moment for that facilitator, hopefully you, Mickey, to talk about the risk. I think we need to be aware of the risk of moving forward with so many unanswered questions or so many things we're not sure of, and to enter into a world of guesses. So that would be what we're doing tomorrow. But yeah, Australia time. Let's see, is it 5:22 p.m. now? There? Yeah, that's it's not going to be a great time to join a webinar. I do apologize. But again, you can catch the replay on in the Patreon world if you're comfortable joining there. And I hope people will join there. It's only $1 American a month. Yes. So again, the recording will be available as soon as I can, knowing that right after tomorrow's webinar, I'm on like 2 podcasts and then have to run to the airport. I'll get it to people as soon as I can, and then it'll be exclusive to Patreon members, paying members for 2 weeks, and then up on YouTube later. We do have the old version of the exercise on the Delta CX channel. You can go to YouTube and search Delta CX Quadrant. The old version will probably come up, but this one I've expanded the board, I've redesigned the board, and I've made a bunch of slides explaining exactly how I plan this and facilitate it, and I think that's going to help people a lot more. Last time we just kind of talked about why the exercise is a good idea, and then we did one. This time we'll be talking more about my deeper approach to it. We're going to have the people who join live do one. I'll cut that out of the, I'll just cut the 5-10 minutes they get to do it out of the YouTube video, so you're not sitting there watching people put sticky notes on a board, and then we'll jump to how I facilitate it at the end. So yeah, thank you for asking that. I almost feel like I paid you to ask that because we're plugging tomorrow's webinar. So don't forget, everybody, cxcc.to/events. It is totally free. You're not added to a mailing list. You're not in a database. If you RSVP, you're just going to get an email reminder from the ad event system that I'm using. Not sponsored. I'm paying them. So there you go. Oh, we have an anonymous question. I'm sorry, it came in 20 minutes ago and I didn't see it. All right. Thank you for your patience. Sorry, sometimes the questions come in slowly, but hopefully you are still here. And I will put your question up and we'll talk about it. And let's just check. We have no questions from Patreon members. Okay. Let's put this one up. Thank you to whoever asked, and I'm sorry it took so long. Okay, not sponsored. Yeah, hold on, we've got a graphic for that. Not sponsored. Yeah, we're not sponsored by anybody. So if I mention a company, I'm paying them. That's the bottom line. Okay, here we go. What's the difference between business goals and product goals? I kind of understand business goals, but how would you suggest defining product goals? It's a super question, and you might get a lot of different answers from a lot of different people, but here's what I would say. The business goals usually relate to what brings the business success. Those are usually going to be things like more customers, more conversions, people paying for things, people turning from free trial to paid, people buying more from us or licensing more from us. The business goals usually have to do with, and this is why I wrote this on the back of my book, attracting customers, little overlay problem there, attracting customers, making them happy, and keeping them. So business goals are usually some flavor of that. We want to grab new customers. We want them to be happy enough to want to stay here and say good things about us. And then we want them to stay. We want to see that they're loyal or retained. So those are your business goals, and they may or may not be specific, and sometimes it's better when they're not specific. A product might have a lot more goals than those. Ultimately, a product will inherit some of those goals. Chances are some of our product goals sound like the business goals. We want new customers to join. We want customers to be happier. We want to keep those customers. We want to get them to buy more and do more. But I would say product goals, whether they're KPIs or OKRs, can also be much more specific to the product itself. For example, have we solved any user or customer problems? Do we have a goal of not just giving the business what they want up there in the clouds, but what have we made better for users or customers that they would see as 5 stars out of 5, as success, in their eyes, as wow, this is just what I need and it just works. I didn't have to take a training course. This is just so easy to use. So we should also have product goals that relate to customers or end users or whoever in our ecosystem this product is for. Because if we only look at business goals, very often we end up doing weird or sneaky or unethical things that push people towards what we hope they're going to do, but sometimes it's not what they want to do. So I would hope that a product would find the balance between what the business is hoping to achieve and what our users are hoping to achieve. And in fact, we can get a little self-referential in here and say, what are the users trying to achieve? Our task analysis will tell us. Our task analysis will tell us what users or customers are trying to do now. Maybe they're not even customers of our system yet. Maybe they use no system or a competitor system. What are they trying to do? How are they trying to do it? What's going well for them? What could be better? And there's our opportunities. So how will our product make things better for our target audiences? How will it solve these things? How will it become this optimized experience? So our product should have goals that are customer centric as well as business goals. I don't expect people to have only customer centric goals and no goals that relate to what the business wants, like money, or possibly even money. But we want to make sure that we are balancing these with what users need as well. And sometimes the business up there in the clouds doesn't really care. They just want to see people doing what they want, and they don't have user-centered or customer-centric goals. So to me, it's the job of the product managers and the CX and UX workers and the engineers and the data people and the marketing people and all of us who are on these product or project teams to inject humanity back into this, to bring customer centricity back into this and say, our product is gonna, sure, we hope or no, it's going to increase our company's revenue or increase our customer loyalty or happiness, but it's also going to help people get this stuff done better than they were getting it done before. And here's how we're going to measure that. And that's our goal. So that's what I would say to that. It's a super question. I love it. Thank you for asking it. Let me check. Did I miss another anonymous question? No. So this is Q&A AMA. I do it every Tuesday, usually at 3 p.m. Italy time, but once a month I do an early version because it started at 9 a.m. here in Italy to try to catch more of you in other time zones. I am here for you. This is free coaching and mentoring. I will be happy to answer any questions about technically anything I have knowledge or expertise in. So you are welcome to ask anything. Don't be shy. If you feel shy, you can go to deltacx.com/links and use the anonymous way to ask questions. And then I'm not going to yell out your name the way I'm yelling out Drew and Mickey. Speaking of Australia, is it just me, or is everybody else absolutely loving the new Toe Hider single, Quit Forever? Toe Hider, who did our theme song, is an Australian musician based in the Melbourne area. That's Toehider. He's Mike Mills. He's one of the most talented guys on the planet, and you want to join his Patreon also. And his new single is called Quit Forever, and it's already up on YouTube. Not only did he put it up on YouTube, but he put up a version of him singing it live, and his singing is off the charts amazing. He's easily, possibly my favorite singer on the planet. Sorry to everybody else. Living or non-living, it's Mike Mills. That's it. All right. So, hey, Ugur again. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. I tend to make everybody Italian. Okay, let's get your question on the list and maybe put it up on the screen in one of my lovely sticky note graphics. Okay, so this was previous question, and now we can paste new question. How do you record doing market segmentation? I think I'm going to need you to clarify that. Hi, Abby. What do you mean by record doing market segmentation? Can you add some information to that? Because I'm not sure what you mean. By the way, I'm extremely excited to be wearing a green shirt because I used to sit in front of a green screen and I couldn't wear my green shirts. Now I turned it around. It's a blue screen. Green shirts, yes. But it means anything that's blue is now chroma keyed out. So now all the blue stuff is see-through. Oops. I'll take it. Well, yeah, Larry doesn't have any blue on his book cover, so that looked great. We're just waiting for our friend to give us more information about this question. What do you mean record? And what do you mean market segmentation without record? How do you do market segmentation? Okay, I think that is the question. How do you do? Let's fix this. How do you do market segmentation? Okay, is that what you meant? Because that's what I'm going to answer. But if it's not what you meant, speak now. Okay, so let's talk about what's market segmentation. Market segmentation is when we look at the market, which is the population that is the looking beautiful. Well, thank you. That's very sweet. I'm sure my husband would agree. And so market. So first of all, the market is all of the possible target audience that your company, product, service, experience could possibly address or sell to. That's the market. Because that's usually a large population, we then do some sort of segmentation, which means we're going to divide the audience up into some sort of groups or buckets or segments, or they're called lots of different things. And to me, any word is okay. Let's just say segments. We're going to break them into groups so that we can try to better understand those people, address their needs, and then do, especially if it's marketing segmentation, how are we going to market or advertise to these people? So how do we do this? Normally, if you really have no idea who your target audiences are, and once in a while we get a client over in the Delta CX world who does not know who their target audience is. They know they want to make something in this kind of space or area, but they're not too sure. And how do we prioritize the segment? Okay, we'll talk about that next. Hi, Karen. So there are different ways to segment, and they're all done. I don't agree with all of them. Very often in marketing or market segmentation, the population is broken up by demographics. How old are people? Are they married? Do they have children? Do they live in a house? How much money do they make? These are to me, old-fashioned, because it implies that people who are married and have children all do the same thing. Who knows what I'm about to put on the screen? Do the same thing, the same way, need the same things, perceive things similarly. If just because people might have some demographics in common, like being of the same age, does that mean that they're anything alike? Maybe yes, maybe no. But why assume that? And why put them into what I like to call lazy buckets, where we just assume that anybody who's of a certain age or gender or has children or lives in a certain city, well, they must need the same things. And you can also see this bias reflected in ChatGPT and things like that. If you ask ChatGPT, what does a 50-year-old woman need? It'll probably tell you skin cream, fitness help, something for menopause, and I'm thinking, hey, a 50-year-old woman is a lot more than her body. But these are the things we tend to assume once we're putting people in lazy buckets around age or gender. So very often, this is where marketing and CX and UX tend to fight each other. Marketing says, hey, look, Debbie is a white woman who's about 50 and she's married and she doesn't have children and she makes this much money, so we think she needs this and we think this is how we need to advertise it to her. CX and UX say, okay, Debbie may be those things, but Debbie is also these other things. She has these behaviors. She has these tasks. She has these perspectives. Maybe she's not the same as the bucket of 50-year-old married women that you're thinking of. So an example I like to use is, let's say I'm shopping for a motorcycle. Do I shop for a motorcycle the way other 50-year-old women shop for a motorcycle? Maybe, maybe not. What if I shop for a motorcycle the way a 23-year-old single gay man does? What does that mean? Do we have to have a marketing bucket for 50-year-old women and early 20s gay men? Like, does this still make sense to divide people up in this way when we can say, you know what, we saw these people shop in a similar way. That's our bucket. That's our segment. People with this type of behavior and this type of approach, that's our bucket. You know what? These people were different ages, ethnicities, genders, lifestyles, personal identifications, but they all kind of did similar things. That's our bucket. Did anyone hear my stomach growl? Sorry about that. I have a good microphone. I believe it could pick it up. So I would say this is where we tend to fight a bit with marketing, because marketing says, hey, these are our buckets. And CX and UX say, we need more. So in order to learn this, CX and UX typically want to do a large generative research study. Yeah, it could be task-oriented. That's what Larry teaches, both in our micro lessons on the Delta CX channel and in the new book. He talks about how once you understand the tasks and you've met a good number of people and you've watched them do the tasks, you will drop them into buckets. Sometimes, for example, those buckets have to do with effort. How much did people put into this task? Some people didn't try very hard and they did their best. Some people tried harder. Did they have more or less success? Sometimes people try harder and they don't have more success. That's interesting too. Some people tried really hard. They did so many extra steps. They had so many tools and workarounds and things. Did they have more success? Maybe, maybe not. Then we can look at these things and put people into those buckets. Larry calls them user knowledge profiles. It's a little bit long. It's not as sexy as segments or buckets, but ultimately, if your segments or buckets can be user knowledge profiles or task-based segments of some sort, I believe, professionally and personally, that is the better way. Now, Karen is asking, how do you prioritize the segment? Let's throw that up on the screen. How do you prioritize segments? Now, very often, the business is going to prioritize segments based on money. That's it. Who do we think we can make the most money from the fastest? That is typically a business's priority. Now, you would hope that they would make the most money the fastest from the audience or population that they're more likely to sell something that they need. So this could still, or should still, go back to making the better product, service, or experience that really matches people, who they are, and what they need. As we like to say here, people, contexts, and systems. Oops, layering. Which one do I have to take off? That one. So how we prioritize is going to be a little bit different. I think the safest way is always to take a look at which segment or bucket is going to help the business achieve its goals and grow. Now, that doesn't mean we're ignoring customer needs. It means that this is the audience we're going to focus on first, and we really need to understand and solve their problems for the business to get the growth that it wants or needs. That's it. There's not going to be a way around that. You can certainly guess at what people want when you don't know. You can make up what they want. You can build them whatever you felt like making them, even if it sucks. But if you really want to best attract customers, do I have an overlay on this? Where's my overlay? The everybody wants three things. We want to attract customers. We want to make them happy. And we want to keep them. Loyalty and retention. So we might say, which of these audiences are we more likely to be able to attract, make happy, and keep, because that's going to make us money. That's going to help us grow. So all of these things should be considered as part of your strategy. Okay, so we have another question. Let me just check if we have an anonymous question. Yes, we do have an anonymous. No, we don't have an anonymous question. That's the old one. Okay, so this is a common question that I get when people have read probably too many books about startups. The question is, do you recommend going for early adopters first? And my question is, what does that mean? Who's the early adopter? How did we determine they're the early adopter? If I'm an early adopter of Disney swag, badly green screened here. If I'm an early adopter of thing X, does that mean I'm an early adopter of thing Y? How will you identify that I'm likely to be your early adopter? I did some research for a friend many years ago when she was trying to create a startup, and she had a waiting list of people who liked her idea and planned to be her early adopters. And I said, why don't I interview some of these people and find out more about what they need and how they do their tasks? And she was like, sure, talk to Leslie. Leslie is going to be customer number one. She's the most excited about our product. I spoke to Leslie, and long story short, Leslie didn't need this product at all. She didn't need it, she didn't want it, and she wasn't going to use it. She was not going to be an early adopter. So you can't assume that someone's an early adopter because they were an early adopter of something else, or because they show some sort of excitement or interest or joined a waiting list. Searching for, you probably wrote users. I think you're in Germany, so it auto-corrected to unseres. That understands mistakes, like beta users, to test things, friendly customers, something like that. But why would you want to test things only on the friendly customer? You need the hard feedback. If my friend had only tested her stuff on her Leslie's and the people who were on her waiting list and the people who felt excited about her idea, she's now in an echo chamber. And the problem was, she didn't take my advice that I gave her after I spoke to Leslie and said, Leslie's not going to use this at all. I said, we probably need to pivot. I don't think people need what you're building. And she didn't want me to do any more interviews. And she didn't want to talk to me about her business. And she spent a year and a lot of money on it and then closed it down because, you'll be amazed to find out, nobody wanted it. So the downside of, hey, let's find the friendly customers, let's find blah, blah, blah. You might be fishing in the pond of the people who are your fans. And it would be better, let's say you've decided that you are going to make something for people who have too many remote controls. I'm just making this up because it's on my desk and I'm thinking about it. It's a terrible idea, but let's pretend. We're going to make something for people with too many remote controls. We've got a waiting list of people who hate having a lot of remote controls. They're curious what we're going to do. And now we've got an idea and we're going to run it by them. Okay, but it would also be smart if we then had professional researchers go out into the wild and say, let's find people who have a lot of remote controls and let's learn more about how they deal with that. What kind of remotes do they have? How do they use them? How do they store them? Do they have troubles with keeping them charged up or putting batteries in them? What are their real problems with remotes before we try to solve it? So I would say another mistake a lot of people who have read books about startups tend to do is, and I'll put up what you had written, because there's a word here that I just want to draw everybody's attention to, and that is test. And this is probably supposed to be users. Remember, if you are testing things, but you haven't done research first to understand who people are, how they do this now, and again, observational research. If you have not done the right research to really understand this audience, their context, how they do this now, what's working, what's not, their unmet needs, etc., then you are testing a guess. And you have probably spent noticeable time and money on that guess. That's risky. That could be wasteful. And the problem is very often those guesses aren't good. But we tell ourselves they're probably good enough and we'll just iterate because that's what the book said to do. The book about startups said go with an idea and iterate on it. It's amazing how rare it is that these books say go with an idea, test it correctly, and if it's not right, forget about it, throw it away, tear it up, uninstall it, remove it. So it's amazing to me that we just keep saying iterate. What if iterating is not the right thing? What if you have to make a huge change or a complete redo or rethink? Drew says, what are the needs of people with one remote? We would have to research to find out. I can't tell you. I can guess, but that would be wrong of me, and I'd probably be wrong. So be careful of over-focusing on how startups say, run with your idea, get people to test it, find friendly people. Friendly people will probably tell you what you want to hear because they're friendly and polite. Find people who are going to challenge you. I think startups don't find enough people that challenge them. So, and remember, if you're testing something, but it was based on no knowledge about people, or your guess or assumption or opinion that maybe we should just make giant cups for everybody, people probably need cups, then you're certainly not customer-centric, you're not user-centric, and you're just going with what books about startups said. But when are we going to take a critical thinking look at those and say, okay, this is what books about startups said to do. How many of those startups are succeeding? Seriously. How many of those startups are succeeding? Most statistics that I have found say over 90% of startups fail. If these methods for startups are that great, why is the failure rate that high? If it is so great to come up with an idea, find some early adopters, test with friendly people who really want this, if that is so freaking great, why do startups fail so often? To me, it's because the model is flawed. The approach is flawed. It says, your idea is probably great, just go with it, save some time. Doesn't make sense. It's not what our users would want. When we're on the end of being a customer, we don't love this. We get something from a company and we go, this is crap. Why did they think I would want this or use this? Do they get me at all? Do they care? Maybe I need to look for the company that thinks I'm their target audience and cares about what I want and how I do things. So that's some of the problems with going by books about startups. When are we going to have the tough conversation with ourselves and other people that these models rarely work? If these models are so great, why haven't more startups found product market fit? Why haven't they truly innovated and come up with something we've never seen before, instead of just being a remix of stuff we've seen before? Where's the success? The success is so rare. Is it possible that the model is fantastic and 90% of people are just getting it wrong? I would still blame the model. The model should be so good that you can follow it and get it right. So, that's how I feel about that. But great to get questions about startups. We need to talk about startups because more critical thinking about these things that are in books that on the surface sound like interesting ways to go. Wow, we're going to be so fast. We're going to be so agile and lean. Agile and lean are not supposed to be based on guesses. Agile says our highest priority is customer satisfaction. Lean says the customer decides what is valuable to them. Lean says be efficient, cut waste. Don't give people broken things. Lean is about reducing defects. And yet here we are reading books and quoting people who say, move fast and give people broken things. Not agile, not lean, and not what your customers or potential customers want. Yet, amazingly, we keep reading these books and thinking that this is what we should do. I read these books and I go, this is not what we should do. Well, I guess when you have a catchy book title and a good book cover and positive reviews on Amazon, look, it can be a good book, but it's not good advice. And we know that now. Some of these books have been out for 10 years. We now know that these are not good ways to do things. When are we going to be agile and change? So hey, the show is almost over. We ended up having some great questions today, thanks to people who joined in. Please remember that it's only once a month that I do this extra early show, and sometimes I have to cancel it if I'm traveling. But otherwise, I'm usually live at 3 p.m. Italy time, which would also be 3 p.m. Germany time. I don't remember what time for Drew, but I get the feeling Drew is up pretty late. When do you know that your product is good? Depends on what I guess I'll try to answer that one quickly before we sign off. When do you know your product is good? Well, hypothetically, it would be because you met or exceeded the goals you set out. This is why we create goals. This is why we have success criteria. This is why we have things we're going to measure. But if you only measure business stuff and you don't measure anything related to customer or user experience or their success in the task, don't make me put up the task thing again. If we're not measuring their success and aspects of their experience, you might see some numbers that look good. You might see, hey, more people signed on. We wanted more adoption. We're a startup. We need to see adopters. But if you're not making people happy, see you later, Mickey. You're probably not going to keep those people. And remember, we care about more than just adopting them. We've got to make them happy and we've got to keep them. So how do you know your product is good? I would say it's when you're keeping them. Because we can always get people to sign on. We can always get people to stick around, even if they're not as happy as they could be, or even if they think they're happy, but are they staying? That is a lagging indicator. It's going to take a while for you to know if people are loyal and staying based on whatever numbers or goals you've set out. Do they have to stay for more than 3 months, 6 months, a year? What to you is a loyal customer? But the product is probably not good if customers are unhappy, Maybe you're running satisfaction surveys and you're getting low scores. If customer support is getting a lot of tickets with complaints, or I don't know how to use this, or I couldn't get this done, then your product's probably not good if it's got problems that customer support has to deal with. Your product is probably not good if the word on the street sucks. If people are writing angry tweets and Facebook posts and stuff, probably sucks. They're definitely not, it's not a good product if they're leaving. That would be your loyalty and retention. So there are definitely ways that you can measure if your product is a fit to your target audience. But to me, you have to go beyond just some of the business numbers, like did people sign up? Or did they log in today? These end up being vanity metrics that look cool, and we like to say them to potential investors, but they're meaningless. Because nowadays you can buy followers, you can buy things. You know, that's not where the action is. Do you have something so good that people are happy with it? They're not talking to customer support, and because they don't need help, because it's that good, and they're staying because they naturally want to stay. Because this is so good, I want to stay. Yeah, people ask me, what's a system that you love so much? For me, and this is not sponsored because I pay them, it's Monday.com. Holy cats, I love Monday.com. I'm happy to pay them. I love to stay. I'm not looking at anything else. When I happen to see other competitors' programs because of things I'm working on with other companies, I miss Monday.com. Everyone should feel like that about your product or service or company. That's the goal. 5 stars out of 5. If that is not the experience, then what are you doing? What are you doing wrong? You're going to have to get your researchers to dig in to figure out why this isn't going as well as it should be going. All right, let's really wind up now. Thanks to everybody who joined in. I'll be back here in 5 hours doing it all again. So you're welcome to send in more questions. If anybody does send in a question for this morning's show and it's too late because the show's over, we'll make it one of the first questions we answer in the later show. So I'll see everybody in about 5 hours if you happen to be awake and available for more Q&A and AMA. Don't forget to subscribe to our Patreon, subscribe here on YouTube, and check out our events so you can RSVP to the many free and a few not free events that we have coming up. Thanks, and see y'all later.